Good afternoon. Just wanted to let everybody know, if you plan on talking, when you come up to the podium, please sign in, please print so that I can read your name and get it right in the minutes. And as you're presenting, make sure you speak into the microphone so that we can get this recorded properly and I can get what you say into the minutes for the meeting. We are right at 4 o'clock now. So I'm going to turn it over to the chairman, and I think we should be able to get this started.
All righty. I'd like to bring to order the July 21st Town of Somerville Design Review Board. The first order of business we need to do is approve or edit the minutes from last month. Their motion for approval.
Motion. Yeah, for correction to make.
Okay.
Where it says Mr. Campo asked for consideration of the
Did I?
25th minutes. Should say
Mr. Carpus.
Carpus.
I didn't even object to that.
All right. Okay. So we have a motion for approval as noted. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. First order.
Wait,
Sorry.
the minutes.
So that was,
I'm sorry. That-
yeah. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Supposed to do that.
You are. Good job. All right. First order of business under old business is 602 North Main Street, proposed addition and site work at Germain Dermatology. If you would come up to the podium and sign in. Anybody here for Germain?
I'm not
Dermatology?
seeing the architect.
We'll table it.
We can table
Okay,
it
so
to the end
stuck
of the
in traffic
meeting,
or
give him an
something?
opportunity.
Okay. So the next is 3878 Latson Road, proposed new Take 5 oil change.
So the second item under old business is a request for preliminary approval for a new proposed Take 5 oil change business right at the corner of Limehouse and Ladson Road. The property zoned UCMX, which is Urban Corridor Mixed Use. This is their second meeting. They received their conceptual review at the May 26th meeting. Following your staff's comments, there are several constraints on the property. This was highlighted at the last meeting. The large electrical lines and corresponding easement parallel to Ladson Road, and an existing CPW pump station on the rear of the property with corresponding easement. The plan shows parking encroaching into the required residential 15-foot landscape buffer. The DRB has the authority to reduce that required buffer, which is on top of the 25-foot utility easement along the rear property line. The DRB must approve the requested encroachment into the required buffer for that parking. The applicant has provided the standard 3-foot screen wall on both Limehouse and Ladson Road. A detail of the proposed wall has not been provided at this time. The proposal addresses the current proposed development and a possible future planned retail phase on the balance of the property. That future retail will need to come back to the board for design review. Stormwater plans will take into account future development need. It is the town's policy to only allow clearing of trees for current development. The balance of the property should remain undisturbed until a development proposal is approved. The building is a standard 3-bay drive-through oil change facility. Overhead doors face Ladson, requiring the screen wall. Finish materials include brick overhead doors, ephes cornice, and a metal canopy. So this is the site, tree survey. I do believe that they've gone to the tree protection board, and the board did table that due to them showing tree removal on the balance of the property. I know that they had resubmitted an alternative plan addressing the tree board's concerns regarding that. So I don't believe that they've gone back and gotten their approval for that, but they are meeting those requests. So this is the site, and now I can turn it over to the applicant to present.
So thank you. My name is Chris Nordmeyer, and I work for SGA Normal Right, SGA and NW to be exact. But yes, this is, thank you for taking the time to, for tonight. But yeah, this is a typical 3-bay take 5. It does face Ladson Road, and we did address the corner as you previously commented on. And so if you don't mind changing over to the elevations, actually, I guess the 3-dimensional renderings.
Come on.
Should be a next couple of sheets. So the previous one, that is a rendering of onto the site. It does show the trees and a representation of what the landscape would be out front. Next slide. So this is a typical take 5. We did remove the ephes except for the ephes cornice. It is going to be a brick veneer, and the veneer matches the adjacent property across the street. So it is a state-built brick. And one of your previous comments mentioned about removing the red band. So what we did is we went back with the red, with a darker brick that actually is just, it's within the same company. And so if you go to the next couple of slides, you'll be able to see the renderings. So this is the back. This is the back of the property that does show the darker brick, no longer red, but we do have the signage, which is in the yellow. And so in the presentation, yellow is a representation of signage, not necessarily any type of material on the building. Next slide. So this is of the corner showing the, you know, how we were wrapped the corner, like you mentioned. We did not take it to halfway through. We took it to a third, trying to break up that continuity of the building and to mimic what we were doing on the front. We have a mill finish cornice, as well as mill finish overhead doors and a canopy. This is a rendering showing the back. There's that, I think there's a station that's in the back. So we incorporated what that view would be. This would be in the drive into the property. Just turn around the corner again. This is just showing that there is going to be a 3-foot buffer between our building and the street. That's going to be landscape as well as some built pilasters. Next slide. And this is another rendition of that front facade, just showing the different color brick that we have. Signage included is by the sign vendor, and they, of course, they will get their own sign permit when we get to that point. So what I have here is the 2 different color bricks. You know, of course, renderings don't always do it. Physical samples are the best. So this is the circular boards. This is the cypress. The darker color shows the brick band, darker color. You know, your typical storefront is going to be a mill finish.
What are the garage doors?
I'm sorry.
What color are the garage doors?
They're mill finish. They're the same colors. And so it's actually a representation of aluminum. It's this. No finish. It's aluminum. It's just kind of hard to see. Representation on but it is.
Tim, could you go back to the elevation, the rendering? That one, thank you. The checkerboard things, is that signage? Is that material on the building? What is that?
So that is signage, and that's part of the signage package. If you go a few sheets, it'll show what that signage is.
Okay.
They normally have that represent, no, I guess not. It's right on the next sheet. Yeah, and it shows the checkered panel at the top, additional element, and that is an additional element that they do ask, they like to see. I have done a few that have not had those on there.
But you're doing signs later. You're not doing signs now? Is that what you said?
Correct. Where that the signage package was included in this, just to show what, you know, what they would like to present, but I'm not representing the sign vendor.
So any approval you would get would exclude signs until you came back for that.
Well, you guys can approve like the ground sign,
We can if he's presenting it.
and you guys can discuss the proposed signage.
He was showing it.
If that element on the walls is not something that you're supportive of, you can ask them to remove it. As you said, that is part of the overall design. It's not communicating any particular message. You know, I would call it a design element as opposed to actual signage. So that would be under your guys' purview.
I'm not in favor of it, black
Yeah,
and white.
I'm not in favor of the checkerboard thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Tim, I have a question for you. If you notice on the rendering or a plan, the sidewalk does not extend down Limehouse. They're required to have a sidewalk down Limehouse.
There's been discussion about that. Typically, we would. There is sidewalk on the other side of the street. My understanding and the way it was described was with the utilities and drainage that's currently on that side, the addition of sidewalk up to that entrance also really doesn't get anybody anywhere. There's no sidewalk on the other side of Limehouse going into, you know, further down, but there is sidewalk on the other side. So it would address pedestrian access into the neighborhoods back there. But that is something that we can discuss and would need to be approved by the engineering department to not be there. So that has not been specifically, Bonnie. The sidewalk on Limehouse here, they currently show sidewalk coming up to the edge here, but none extending up to the driveway or to the end of their property, which would be our standard. Would that be something that the engineering department would want to see, or is that something that we
We would want to see it, but I think we've commented on it before when it came through TRC and they looked at it and it was, you know, so it's just a little way and, you know, there's no sidewalk down there. I guess it just depends on what the issues are, why they couldn't put a sidewalk. And typically, we would want to see it, but they would have that connection from last.
How is CPW gonna access our pump station? It's got a bunch of landscape block with lot.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jessica Myers and I represent C. Baker Engineering. I'm one of the civil engineers on staff. So we've been in pretty close coordination with CPW, and one of the ways that we plan to address your comment there, we do need to revise the landscaping plan just a bit, but the plan is to use a flush ribbon curb there at the end instead of the standard 6-inch. so that they'll be able to just pull straight into the pump station where those three parking places are to the rear. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They are great access, and they, like I said, the curb will be a flush ribbon curb that they'll be able to pull straight up to. They won't have. Yes, we've talked to CPW and they are most grateful with that. They won't have to pull in off of Limehouse anymore and then back out into traffic.
Let's go ahead and go through architectural comments if we could. There are any.
They asked, they did what we asked to do last time. Most people tell me to turn off the mic. I don't want to hear what I'm saying. But, I think they addressed the comments from last time. It looks good. I think it's a really good example of toning down the corporate brand, but not getting rid of it altogether. And I think it seems to fit in pretty well.
Thank you.
I agree. It was very responsive changes to, since the last meeting. Did you add stay in your car for Bill or? I have no other questions. It looks great.
Thank you.
I'm fine with it. Looks good.
There's no other architecture comments, any site comments or landscape sign. What do you, I just may have missed it. Dumpster enclosure? Did-
Yeah, it's normally in our system documents. It's either a composite material or a wood material, but a lot of times we try to use the composite material so it's less corrosive.
Okay, is that in the rendering?
I think we did have we did show it in the rendering. If you go through, it's one of the keep going. One more, you can see it back in the back. Yeah, I think we use it's a lighter wood composite material.
So the whole thing's wood as opposed to brick columns or hardy board or something like that?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay,
Composite wood.
I think I would recommend it match the building.
Okay.
The wood usually doesn't last as long as it, and it gets damaged pretty easily.
Right, that's the reason why we use that composite material.
Okay.
Like Trex. We use Trex board.
Typically, we'd see brick columns and then the infill with the composite material.
Sure.
Okay.
We can do that.
A little bit more like the building.
Make it reflect the building, right?
Sure thing.
Any other comments?
I think we're good on the encroachment of the 15-foot easement because you got a 25-foot easement in addition to that. So I think you're meeting, I think it looks fine.
Thank you.
All right, they're seeking preliminary approval. That's what it says, right?
Yes.
So is there a motion for preliminary approval with any conditions?
I'd make final approval with conditions.
The only thing I'd comment on final is I'm not really clear about, is he asking us to approve the sign or not approve the sign?
No signs.
No,
The signs are not being approved today.
that's correct.
Okay,
Just the materials of the exterior building.
Sure. So it was really for informational.
That's correct.
thank you.
Yeah, I would put,
That's one of the comments. Yes.
And there's no mechanical equipment on the roof.
no, sir. There's only one, it's a through wall unit at the office. And there's a aluminum grill on the front of the building.
Okay, so we have a preliminary, we have a motion for final approval with conditions. Is there a second? All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I completely missed that. Who motioned? So that was final with conditions. correct? And that was all 7 of you. Thank you.
Next order of business is 1306 North Main Street. Proposed facade renovations and new outdoor seating.
The first item under new business is a request for preliminary approval of proposed changes to the exterior and the addition of an outdoor covered seating area at 1306 North Main Street. This is the vacant Mellow Mushroom Building. This is the first meeting. The property is zone GB General Business. Based on the review, this staff's comments, the proposal includes painting the exterior of the building. Colors are provided in the packet. There is also a proposed wood-framed covered patio on the front of the building. New foundation plantings should be included as part of this addition.
Good afternoon. Thank you for seeing me today. It's a pretty straightforward process. As was stated, is we'd like to add a covered patio with a new concrete pad at the exterior. We're going to add a new door at what looks like Plan North of floor entrance, and then changing the colors from the green, blue, teal that they are now to that darker red with an accessory color of black for the coping, the new patio deck area, exterior columns, and whatnot. We did include signage, and I didn't entirely follow up on the process of that, but we would like to consider the signage being approved if possible during this review. It was instructed me by Tim that this may be a preliminary approval. We did submit in the hopes that it could be a final approval if possible. That is obviously up for your decision. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Can you really elaborate on where these different colors are going? Do you have a rendering or?
Yes, it's well, we can't entirely zoom in. The top color, the darker red, is denoted as the PT2 color, which you can see through most of the building. PT1 again would be the coping areas, the wood structure as well. And in the back where there are, there's already an existing exterior seating with those columns and whatnot will be black as well. So mostly red, really.
Where is the new door? I'm trying to figure, you mentioned there's a new entry, is a new entry door?
No, that door is existing that you're pointing to in the B2 elevation. You go to the top drawing, the D2 West elevation, that door at the left, that will be the new main entrance door.
And that's on the side as you go into the center.
Correct. And that is still that is the current path of travel for the building currently. The entrance tower that you see at that corner, that's where the existing entrance doors are now. The owners installing a stage in that area, so that door will really no longer be functional.
And the new covered area is on the front?
Yes, ma'am.
If we could go to the plan.
Yeah, we
At
got to
least
do
on the
better than
screen, it's
this.
a little hard to distinguish.
Yep.
That's the addition
Correct.
facing Main Street.
Yes. So we're adding roughly about 5 additional feet, or expanding about 5 additional feet from the existing concrete sidewalk that's there. We will be cutting that sidewalk and then adding new pad, but it does only extend roughly again 5 or.
What's the dimension of the cover?
The dimension of the cover is 21 feet in depth from the building to the street.
And is the roof of that thing, what color, how much of that roof is visible?
I believe it's a 3-to-1 slope, so it will be a corrugated metal panel that would be black.
Look at that elevation again. That's E2.
Yes.
So it's most visible on the top elevation, correct? Where you can see it on the right-hand side. I mean, that's where that, on the west elevation, that's,
And that's gonna
That's
be
it.
black, the roof is black. What about the,
Black wood. I think you need a knee wall around that patio, new patio.
A knee wall. We would probably use it as a wood knee wall. That'd be
Say
fine.
again?
A wood material knee wall, would that be adequate?
Or stucco, like the rest of the building, whatever.
Or a stucco? Okay. Let's see.
It's hard. You know, the red is such a powerful color. I like it on the front crazy thing. Because it's a really strong element and.
But that one was striped. It's black and red.
yeah, I don't like that at
PT1
all.
and
One and
PT2.
two.
you're right, I was
I
thinking
guess
it was
my
on
point
one.
is that the powerful colors in small amounts are usually very effective. I'm a little concerned without seeing a rendering of all of this thing as being the red. That's a lot of red. And it may look great. It's just hard without like a three-dimensional drawing to really visualize,
Right.
you know, what this thing's gonna look like. So
I understand that. This is pretty the standard color that the company's been doing with their kind of new rebranding the last 2 to 3
yeah,
years.
and we keep saying no to company standard.
Well, my point in bringing that up is just having witnessed the impact of it on projects like.
Again, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying there's not enough
Color
information
rendering.
to get-
Well, one of the great things about this building when Mellow Mushroom did it, and I know some people liked it, some people didn't, is they had reasons why they did things. The tower represented the pine trees and the colors represented the colors you'd see in pine trees. They didn't just come in and say, well, we want to paint the building green. And you're saying, well, we want to paint the building red because that's what we've done elsewhere. I haven't heard anything what makes this better, what makes it look like it belongs in Somerville. It's just, we're painting it red and it's going to be a lot more eye-catching or vibrant or whatever, but I haven't heard any justification for why you're making the design decisions you want both on color and on the lean-to, and it impacts the site plan as well. We haven't seen any of those site plan, at least it's not in what I've seen here. So it affects the landscape. So I'm not receptive to kind of what I'm seeing.
There is a site plan that was provided in this.
Okay.
So go back to the little colored images you just scrolled past. That was the existing.
Mhm.
So that, I think if we could get, and this is preliminary you're asking for?
Preliminary and final.
Yeah, so
Right.
it's hard to get final. If you came in with the existing and then just kind of on top of it or next to it, say, this is what we're proposing, it'll be a lot easier to make a decision. But it's very difficult to go back and try and say, what does this thing look like? It may be awesome, but if it's not, then, you know, I think we need to see it.
Agreed.
Just give preliminary, do that.
Okay, we can do that.
Because I think the idea of outdoor seating is great. We've approved those all over the town. And we need more.
COVID.
With the site plan, really vegetation outside of the grass planting area really won't be affected. There will be no trees that will be removed. And it is within it's within the buffer and the setback area. But the building actually already ekes into the setback as is seen.
30-foot required setback. Have you already gotten a variance to go into the setback?
We were wondering what our variance is
I
going
don't
to
think
have
we
to
have
be
that
for.
required 30-foot setback anymore. I think that was back.
No, yeah, and you guys have the authority.
Don't have that. anymore.
It's actually the minimum required front setback in GB is 10 feet.
Okay.
10 feet.
And you guys can approve it where it's at.
It was taken from the mellow mushroom drawings.
It
how
was
we based
pertinent
that.
then, but not
And
now.
the zoning changed those
Zoning changed, Which
requirements.
is great. So we will amend that for our new submission to remove that 30-foot setback in there and show that we are well within our buildable area.
And then you need to update the landscape plan as well. Yeah,
Most-
that I've noticed over the years that front needs help with landscaping. And so I would not want to see just a porch kind of in there. It needs to be softened along, at least along the front. And really I think the back needs to be evaluated as well. It may be fine. We just need to double check it.
You could handle that knee wall with landscape in the form of a hedge.
Okay.
It's just that, you know, it's ugly to look at people sitting at tables.
Yeah.
When you gotta look at those ugly bodies.
Plus, yeah, plus it's safer.
When you come back and bring us color rendering, consider putting some other color on it that lightens the building. It's going to be very dark and very heavy looking. And that sometimes is not something that we agree with. Okay.
I'm probably not going to be in favor of painting the whole
No,
building
not
red.
either.
Just tell you that. Right.
Mhm.
Just go ahead and get that out of the way.
Is that really red? Though? I mean, it's more of a.
Kind of a brick red.
It's a brick color, but combined with the black and I just don't
It's
know.
like a burnt red.
The rendering will help us.
Okay,
Okay,
understood. Yeah.
hopefully.
Any further discussion?
I would like to discuss the signage as well. I don't know if I'd just like that to be part of preliminary approval.
Before you go to the signage, all right, so the 1, 2, 3, the third down right beside the red, that little roof, what color is that?
That would be black, what we're planning on.
That's something you might consider a nice silver or something neutral.
A neutral lighter
Mhm.
color.
Mhm.
That's the addition in front.
I know, and black is just not going to be beautiful. So,
Is the signage box sign? Is it a box sign? What kind of sign is it?
don't think
Yeah,
it's-
that'll be a box sign, at the
From
top,
the
at the
side,
top
yeah.
drawing that you see and at the third drawing down. The signage on the lowest drawing will be a roundel that'll be illuminated. All three signages will be illuminated. And they're in the general location of where the mellow mushroom signage is. However, the mellow mushroom signage on those upper two drawings actually sat on the roof protrusion, the overhang. These will be mounted to the wall at the back area.
Can you look at the, can we go back and look at the existing photographs? and just try and-
Please.
I do want to point out that box signs as wall signs are not permitted. So, yes, that's correct.
You need to go with track signs on that, just the electrical track and then the sign, then the letters are mounted on the track. You don't see the track because the letters block them out.
To me, the building was always the sign. We saw that. I'm not sure. Building with this form, especially if you go to conventional sign, at some point, people are gonna know how. First time something goes there. May not be that easy.
Okay.
Seems like the original sign was a little bit unusual. Fit with the- Those are very conventional sign, like you see over walking clinics, and CVS. Conventional, for very conventional buildings. Many colors architecture, you know, it's a thing. Script that people actually
Greg, it'll look totally different as a track sign versus a box sign, which they cannot have box signs. But are you gonna have a freestanding sign?
On the
monument sign?
property,
Yeah, on
I
the
don't
property.
believe we will at this time.
No freestanding signs, so you've only got two signs, wall signs, front and side, one side, and one in the rear of the surround side.
Yeah, there would be three, correct? Yeah, we won't have anything additional beyond those, is what we're
Those,
planning at this
those
time.
two rectangular, one round.
Correct. Okay.
Just get an overall feel of what this thing is.
I agree with Bill, the
Track sign.
track signage will look better, but the thing I like about Mellow Mushroom is the signs are quirky and they're interesting and they're noticeable. I don't think that a track sign just on the building is, I'm not convinced it's gonna look good. I think I like the way Mellow Mushroom was done, and it's somewhat iconic and a little bit more interesting. It projects above the roof line. I would be more in favor of something like that.
I think that's a reasonable request, and I think that probably is a better option. And in fact, it may be even more legible, really. So we will see what can be done, what the owner is willing to do on that signage package.
Any other comments?
Knee-wall's place.
I think-
Knee wall gives you security too.
Mhm.
People don't run off without paying their bill that way.
Yeah,
And
nowadays
in
I
that
understand
particular
that.
Neighborhood, they will run off without paying the bill.
Okay.
Pretty rough.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine with the location. I think the detail is, just need to see more of the details, because unless it was in there, all I could see is what it looks like on the elevation on the building. I think we need to really study that a little bit more and have the details with it.
Okay.
All right. Unless there's any further discussion, we'll entertain a motion for approval or denial. It sounds like we're at the preliminary stage. So just someone needs to make a motion.
I'll make a motion for a preliminary approval with comments.
Any further discussion? My discussion is I don't want to give preliminary approval because there was nothing that I haven't seen enough to give preliminary approval. So it would be a denial for me.
I think we're giving preliminary approval because your main presentation is your canopy. Your shape, size of canopy at the front. That's the addition of the building. The rest is just the color of that
Right. Yes, sir.
signage. So I like shape of the canopy is going to enhance the building. It's going to look good.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Is there a second for preliminary approval with conditions?
A second.
All right, all vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed. 2 opposed. 3 opposed.
Oh, okay.
2,
Wow.
3, 4. But you know what you need to do, so.
Yeah.
You're
Oh my
fine.
God, it's 3-3.
4 to 3, right?
Is it
4-3. There's 7 of you.
Yeah. But you're still, I mean, you can come back. I mean, you got preliminary approval and you heard what we had to say. So
No, thank you very much.
thank you so much. All right, we're going to go back up to Germain Dermatology. If you would just state sign in and state your name and role in the project, please.
My name is Babak Bryan Architects. I apologize for my lateness.
So the first item under old business was a request for final approval, proposed addition and site work at 602 North Main Street. This is an existing medical office. They received preliminary approval at the June meeting. The proposal consists of a 1,500 square foot expansion on the south side of the building. This will close the one-way drive around the side of the building. This results in the removal of parking on the main drive to allow for two-way traffic. The dumpster enclosure is moved to allow for better circulation and the addition of a landscaped island next to the row of parking spaces. The applicant has provided a roof plan and the requested 3D rendering. Staff recommends that the new landscaping at the front, which consists of 2 live oaks, should be reduced down to 1 live oak, just for space purposes to give those trees a chance to be successful. There is not adequate space for 2 large trees. Additionally, the sweetgrass proposed around the accessible parking at the front should wrap around the front space closest to Main Street to screen that parking. So. Come on. Sorry, my computer is not liking me today. So what we're asking is that the sweetgrass wrap around the front. If my cursor will move there along here, and that one of these live oaks be removed. Excuse me. And then to get to the issues that were outstanding from the last meeting. Here's the roof plan that I eliminated the last time. My apologies on that.
I actually appreciate the opportunity. I have to rethink it. So I did make a minor modification to that roof plan. I pulled the overlap back by moving the ridge line a couple of inches. I was able to reduce the overlap of the new roof onto the existing roof. And then that's more visible in the modified elevations and the renderings as well in the following pages. So there you can see the facade wall corner of the new roof and the old existing kind of are in plane now. So the overlap, I believe, is a little bit more natural looking. And then the perspectives show exactly how that would flow. That's the existing photos. And then those are some aerial and then ground level perspectives from the left and the right of the proposed addition. As far as staff's comments with the trees, we're totally fine with that. I do want to look back at what the existing shrubs are on the street line, because I know there are some things there. So maybe we need to look carefully at what's existing, and so we don't just overcrowd the existing vegetation, but we're totally great with that.
Yep.
How close to the property line are you?
I believe we're like just off of the 10-foot setback with this.
I think you're 10 feet. Doesn't look like it.
No, it's like 10 and 2 inches. It's close.
Okay. I'm just looking at a parking 9-foot parking spot, and this setback is about half of a 9-foot parking spot. Put you about 4 feet.
Setback buffer or whatever perimeter buffer used to be 5 feet. It's like 5 feet.
Could be 5 feet, but
It's
that
5 feet. Maybe I'm mistaken.
could be
I
5 feet.
apologize. I don't have the number on the top of my
Not
head.
really half that parking spot, though, but it's not dimensioned on the site plan.
It's not.
You're gonna get into code issues with your wall ratings and that sort of thing, being that close to a property line for the commercial building, and it may be a fire district, which may get you into wire glass and all kinds of fireproof glass and all kinds of stuff.
I do understand that. We did have a preliminary conversation with fire marshal and building department about all of that, and no one had any initial objections, but I understand that may come up.
Yeah, it's just something you may run into. I don't think in that neighborhood it makes any difference. I mean, you could be zero setback in that neighborhood.
I believe that might be true. Sure, but with the type of construction, it is an issue.
Any architectural comments? Looks like they have been here before. Yeah, right?
Yeah, one of the things we commented on last time was that it was hard to figure out what was going on with the roof. And now that you're showing what's going on with the roof, it looks like just kind of I know that it was a challenge. I can see that it was a challenge. I'm not sure that it's successful. It just seems like just kind of smashed together, and I'm not trying to minimize the amount of effort that I know it took to get it here, but I also don't think it's working. So I don't know if it's going to mean, some overframing of the existing or what. There's a lot going on here, as you know. I think that would be my main comment. They're together, but they're not, the two parts are together, but they're not working together very well. And that's really what I see. As far as the other, the rest of it, I assume the siding and everything would match, and the windows.
Yeah.
So you're gonna paint it green again, more green?
It's gonna be the same color palette.
Material or
So the existing siding is just pine painted orange.
that's the material you'll use for them.
You think they would consider, as a fresh start, changing the color of the building?
Totally would be open to that. I know that they just repainted it a couple of years ago.
I wouldn't change what's there. I'm
No,
just
I
wondering.
think what's there is. okay.
Where's the picture of the existing?
The previous slide.
Let's go back to that and see the color. So the roof is black,
The roof is green. It's a kind of more of an emerald green.
dark green? Okay.
And then it's a very minty.
I
green
meant
that they
green on
painted.
the side and white trim.
I think
Yeah.
there's enough of that. I'm not sure we should do more of it. And I wouldn't ask them to repaint it. I'm just wondering if it'd be more successful if somehow you could do a slight reveal between the addition and new and almost make it look like, given an excuse to change color. So that it read more potentially like two separate buildings. Because I think you've looked at it and said, well, I can't really extend what's there and make it look like a unified building because it's the existing building is too short. You gotta go taller. And that's causing a lot of massing challenges and funny intersections between overhangs and walls. And again, I'm just not sure painting, continuing that color is really, I'm afraid it's gonna make that bad intersection even worse. Whereas if it were a different color, and not totally different color, maybe it's the same, maybe it's green, but maybe a deeper, not so, that's a very kind of light, happy, fun green. There's just a lot of it. That's my only criticism. And especially the tall part, if that were a darker green and the addition were a darker, maybe you could get that, what's there to be the pop, that's what people are attracted to, that's where they're going. And then the other part seems more like not back of house, but just not the focus of the building. And I think this building would then, I think it would look better if it were set against a more subtle backdrop.
I agree.
Just to clarify, one of the driving things with the position of the roof and the ridge line is that existing roof trusses that are in play and then going into the mansard. We're trying to utilize that as our bearing point for the ridge. And so pulling the roof further away and giving that reveal, as much as I really would agree with you that I want to do that. If the roofs can still overlap, but I'll pull a reveal off the walls, I'd be totally amenable to that. I think it's a subtle difference, I understand.
You know, these colors are great in small. If you look at Caribbean colors or Bahamian colors, small, they're very small buildings. I think it would work this way.
I think one of the things they have going for them is that side of the building is pretty much hidden.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean that derogatory necessarily, but it's like, it's very hard to see that side. And then if you add landscaping, which I didn't see, you could add a hedge along that entire side that would help hide it as well. So you're not gonna see as much as that perspective is kind of making you think you see.
But I think the addition is gonna help. Kind of cover the high flat. If you look at this side. It's bad, so at least you're covering up the real.
The Pizza Hut side, yeah.
I've ridden by this building a million times and I swear to God, I've never seen it.
You see the sign up front.
Yeah.
Um,
that's it.
I wanted to ask about the windows. Will the windows be exactly the same kind of window in the addition as on the front building, first building?
That was the intention. Yes.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't really show that, and that's why I'm asking that question.
Well, you got mutton bars on the original building
And nothing on the rendering.
and they're not double hung or anything on the addition. They're just single pane of glass.
I could clarify that. I thought I had it with a note, but the graphics don't convey that correctly.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ready for final. No,
No,
as much as I'd like to. But
So you were talking about.
well, that's just a word of warning. So, I mean, the building officials will go through that in plan review. And it's a matter, you have to have a 2-hour rating if you're within 10 feet. setback. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just a code issue they can handle with the building official. We don't have anything much to do with that.
Yeah, I would agree that we should be not approving things that we're not feeling good about the setback.
I really think what we need is we need the renderings to have color on them. The color that is going, the windows need to be accurate on the rendering. We really have to be able to see it. Okay, and we appreciate that. Okay.
I think we're ready for a motion. We're seeking, like I said, seeking final approval.
We've already got preliminary. What can we do, Tim? I mean, we're not going to approve it. Fine. So can they withdraw it and bring it back?
If,
Well, there's no penalty.
yeah,
it's
it's
I mean,
not
they
a
can-
penalty. It's, the penalty is time.
Yeah.
Right. Is what it boils down to. You know, they would have to come back next month for potentially getting final. I mean, it is up to the applicant if they don't, if they would prefer not to have a denial, they can request to withdraw the application at this time prior to the vote, or allow you guys to vote, see how that's gonna pan out and go from there. And it's also gonna be dependent upon what your motion is.
Yeah. I think we need to make a motion for either approval or denial vote. If it's a denial, you just come back next month. You know,
Either
that's-
way, if he withdraws, he has to come back next month.
Right. There's no-
So
From our
at this
perspective,
point-
if you withdraw, it doesn't help us. I mean, it might help you, but it doesn't help us. So.
Can they cut
I'll be
the
back in
circuit
2 months.
short by just informally submitting and we all just informally review it during the upcoming month?
We can if time is important.
Tom's that important?
We
I mean, I would
can.
appreciate anything to help expedite.
I
I'm
think
not gonna be
that-
able to be here next month.
The main issue is the confirming the setback relative to the proximity to property line and any required rating of the wall. I think,
Which would affect your windows and openings.
Mhm.
So it does have a little design. input,
Understood.
windows and openings.
if we don't do that now, and you have to change everything because of building code, then you're gonna have an approved design which doesn't match what you plan to build. So that would be a good step.
Why
Just
don't
say,
we why don't we just deny and go to next month?
well, again, if you want to do something between now and then, we could potentially.
All right, we'll entertain a motion. Would someone like to make one?
I don't know what it is.
I just made a motion to deny.
So okay, we have a motion to deny. Any further discussion? We have a second. Do you want to entertain that he does have the ability to submit for, I don't know, board, committee approval or something? Or is it just denial?
I'm always open. I'm open to committee approval during the month. If anybody else.
Sure.
Committee of three?
Yeah, we've done that before. If time's important.
Okay, well then that amendment is denied. So we need to vote. All those in favor of,
Did we amend the motion?
no, it denied. Well,
It's straight denial. We
Yeah.
didn't.
you
put a
have to entertain
caveat.
it.
That's right.
So
You
I'm
have
not
to-
gonna approve.
Yeah.
The change in the motion.
So it was,
Okay.
all right, so let's all vote in favor of the motion, which is a denial, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Art. So you have to submit for next month. Thank you. Any other business?
That's a hard.
No, at this time, that was the last item.
Okay, I think. Art, did you vote for adjournment?
Make a motion.
Is there a second? By Matt, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Right.
It's a record. All right. Well, last month was a record for too long.
Yeah, we had like 32 submittals. So.
The developer of the